Skye Squad, we are back in the building. And of course, we're going to be talking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, season 12, episode 1, the premiere. Last night was riveting. Okay. It was riveting. And, I'm just going to address something right off the bat. When the news came out about Dorit, homes being burglarized, I remember reading that there was a lot of people online that was speculating that, oh, this is for a storyline. But I'm here to tell you guys, like, after watching, I never really thought that because I'm of the firm belief that you don't make up something like this. You don't do that, especially with kids involved and that sort of thing. So to watch this unfold, it was a riveting television, but it was also heart-wrenching at the same time. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I literally cried watching the episode because you just think to yourself, like, why do people do things like this? Why do people, break into someone's home? And then how do you feel safe in your home afterwards? And so, forgive me if the tenor of this review isn't as, zany as I normally tend to do my reviews, but I just felt like I wanted to address that right off the bat because that literally is how the episode starts. We get the eerie camera footage of Dorit's home and someone breaking the glass, and you hear her voiceover as she's describing what happened in detail, and it is chilling. And in true Beverly Hills fashion, we get a rewind to 3 days before. So we're immediately taken out of this, creepy, sinister situation, and we're thrust right into the middle of, you know, typical Beverly Hills actions. So that was kind of jarring, but I felt like it definitely Beverly Hills knows how to usher in a new season. And I'm going to give this episode a 10 for the simple fact that we got a lot of raw emotion. If I shed some tears, then for me, I know it meant the episode was good. And I hate that it was good for this reason, but it was good because we see how someone can survive something like this and move through it, and how the group came together collectively to be there for her as her support system until PK arrived. And then the emotional moment when PK does arrive is that was where I shed some tears. I'm not even gonna lie. I had a little eye sweats, a little thug tear came out. I ain't gonna even lie about it, But again, that's why you keep a trusty cry angle here to dip and dab when you got a tear. Okay. Now, anyway, we start the episode off, and I said I give it a 10. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 because it starts off with such a heart-wrenching episode, but there's also a lot of hints of things to come. And I'm going to tell you like this: Lisa's not playing with Sutton. Sutton's not playing with Erika. Erika ain't playing with nobody. And Garcelle is still asking the questions that need to be asked. Okay. So Dorit and the kids, we see them heading back from London. We learn that PK is going to stay in London, and that's how all of this went down. Kyle and Portia, her daughter, are doing Krav Maga in the backyard. Not sure if you guys know what that is. It's a form of fighting. We see Lisa visiting Erika Jane at her new place. We learn that Erika is receiving some flowers from the secret admirer, whomever that is. Wink, wink. We learned that she's having the SCX. Okay. And yeah. So Lisa is upset about Sutton and everything that Sutton said about the Elton John Foundation gala that Lisa allegedly gets invited to every year. According to Sutton, well, the whole thing starts off because during the previous season, Lisa called out Garcelle for not saying thank you to her husband, Harry, for bringing Garcelle some of his infamous pasta sauce. Garcelle said thank you in the moment. For some reason, Lisa made it a thing that Garcelle didn't send a thank you text message later. I don't know why she needed to do that again. But anyway, so Sutton got on Watch What Happens Live and basically said, well, I invited Lisa to sit at my table at the Elton John gala, and she didn't say a thank you. So Lisa is upset about that because, according to Lisa, she's always been a guest at the Elton John gala. And then she even went on just recently. I'm going to point this out from my friends over at Queens of Bravo, but she went on to say basically this, and she went in, and this was before the season even started. She says, Harry and I have been going to the Elton John Oscar party to raise money for AIDS since 2006. We were never guests of Sutton Strack, ever. In 2019, we had our own table that we were scheduled to sit at. At the time, Sutton was desperately trying to get on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I was happy to help her. So she asked us to sit at her table at the event. I said, sure, why not? And I gave up the table we were assigned to sit at. That's the story. The rest you'll see play out in 1 week on May 11th, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I hate the idea or this trope that some housewives will use to say that they are desperate to get on the show, because ultimately you're on the show too. You wanted to be on the show. Apparently, from what I hear, you wanted to be on the show earlier and they had allegedly passed on you. So, I mean, everybody who is on the show wants to be on the show. So, this idea that she was just so desperate is kind of ludicrous to me, because you're on the same show that she desperately wanted to be on. So doesn't that put you in the same desperate boat? Anyway, um they agree that Sutton did it to stick up for Garcelle, and Lisa says she's messing with the wrong one. But in Miami, Sutton and Garcelle are down to Miami to celebrate a fundraiser for Angels for Humanity, single, and they are ready to mingle. But Sutton thinks that, although she says that, it happened, but she feels like it'll be okay with Lisa. And I'm like, girl, you haven't watched this show long enough, have you? Okay. Because Lisa's gonna get you. She is. Next, we see Sutton stopping by Crystal's to see the basement. They really talk about how far they have come. And Crystal says that she realizes that Sutton uses her cheeky sense of humor to actually take little jabs at people. And now that she's gotten to know her better, they are all good. But I'm like, are you? Anyway, Erika and Garcelle go to work out, right? And we get a flashback of Sutton basically saying she doesn't understand how Garcelle can even go work out with Erika because of all the horrible things that she said and did to Sutton last year. And Garcelle is like, I'm going to talk to her about you. Okay. So as soon as we get into the workout, Erika's sort of talking about how, she's been drinking a lot and eating a lot of Taco Bell and not even remember making the orders or whatever. Garcelle gets right into it and say, listen, are you gonna apologize to Sutton or nah? And Erika's like, who? And Garcelle is like, Sutton. Erika's like, why? Garcelle's like, you threatened her. What were my exact words? Erika asked. Garcelle says, I'm going to come for you. That's what you said. Erika says, well, that could mean anything. That could mean a ton of things. Okay. Garcelle is like, girl, Then we get into all of the things that Erika says that Sutton talked about, which was basically stuff that was in the news. The $20 million that was allegedly put into her E&J Global account. She says that she never touched that money. The facts are in her favor. The bankruptcy trustee said that Erika never touched the Lion Air money. And Garcelle is like, oh, okay. But how come what you're saying has never been in the press? Okay. And so then the producer's like, well, how and when was all of this stuff that was in the press disproven? And Erika, sipping on her martini, I don't know. You'll have to go check all that ish out yourself. But it was disproven early. So Bravo can do their due diligence. I really don't know. So then the producer says, well, is the proof available to the public? And Erika's like, yeah, duh. Tell them to go and effing read the things that my lawyers put out and they can answer their own effing questions. Thank you. And I'm like, listen, let me tell you one thing that I do not like. And I've told you guys this already. I do not like when people disrespect production. Okay, because number one, you need to, again, I tell y'all time and time again, in the entertainment industry, you always be easy to work with. And Erika thinks that right now she is top dog because she knows that her storyline is pushing the narrative forward. But let me tell you something, sugar pot honey bun. As soon as you think that you are riding that high horse and you can treat production any kind of way, will be just as sure as the day that they will get rid of you as soon as they feel like they don't need you anymore. Okay. So you best to be watching and minding your manners and your P's and Q's and be given what you need to give. And when the producers ask you questions to verify the things that you're calling fact, I suggest you either bring out the list of articles or you simply say, I have to refer to my lawyer. Okay. That's how you answer that question. But you don't talk that smack to the production team because that's a dangerous game that you're playing right there. And I know you think that you that top dog right now, but so have many who have become before you. And we see where some of them are now. Anyway, Garcelle is like, so everything is dismissed, and Erika's like, no, it's just time to smile. And Garcelle is like, this girl is in denial. Finally, Garcelle says, listen, I'm not going to ask you any more questions about you and Tom. It's time to move on. Erika reminds us that she is only being sued civilly and not criminally. And that is where she is. And it's difficult to get a divorce from someone who is declared allegedly mentally incompetent. So there is that. We get a scene that's really nice with Dorit and the kids. They're back home. The kids are outside taking karate. Garcelle calls to check in with, Dorit, which is nice to see, specifically after the drama that they had last season. It's nice to see that they've kind of worked their way back into their friendship, which I really, really liked. But 5 hours later, we see the footage of the break-in. It's honestly chilling to hear her voiceover recount how this whole situation went down. The robbers are coming into the home. She said on Watch What Happens Live that the security system that she usually has in place was not on because the kids will oftentimes be kind of, wandering through the house at night and they trip off the alarm system. So she didn't even turn it on. So that's really, really unfortunate because ultimately, I just feel like she also said on the episode that, the kids normally sleep with her when PK is away, but thank God she had decided for some reason to put the kids in their own bedroom because she was just so tired and she wanted just to have a good night's sleep. And then she wakes up in the middle of the night thinking it's one of the kids walking around and she sees the two men. They basically force her to the ground, ask her to tell them where all the stuff was, all the goods were. She kind of tells them she's pleading for her life. And the assumption is that they thought that she would not have been home because they seemed kind of, out of sorts as well. So she was able to kind of talk her way through the whole incident and keep her kids and herself safe and alive. Meanwhile, Kyle is at her Beverly Hills, her Bel Air home, crying her eyes out. And Sutton arrives with cookies. And Kyle wants to talk about Dorit because that's obviously the thing, that's most pressing. But Sutton is like, well, I have, I'm still dealing with immigration and these French designers, and it's just such a tough time for me right now. And Kyle is like, well, girl, our friend just got her house broken into, and she was robbed at gunpoint. And you sitting here talking about the people can't get the furniture in through immigration. What in the world? And Sutton is just really not getting it. I think it was one of those moments where Sutton was just like, we all got issues. But sometimes I feel like, and I think I've been guilty of this at times too, maybe focusing a little bit too much on my own issues and not necessarily hearing what the other person was saying, because Sutton definitely was missing the sensitivity mark in that moment. Okay. But anyway, they get into a conversation about, Sutton dating. And, Kyle is like, well, Erika's dating too. And Sutton's like, well, I think my qualifications and your friend's qualifications are quite different. Okay. Basically, Sutton says in her confessional, unlike Erika, she has her own money. She doesn't need money in order to make herself feel better. And Erika herself doesn't have the lifestyle that she used to have, so she has to look for someone to provide that for her. And I said, "Oh, Sutton. Oh, Sutton. I like this Sutton." Now, I just hope that if necessary, that you are willing to say this to her face, because the way she read Erika down in that confessional, I said, "Oh, we have a new shade assassin in this group, and her name is Sutton Strack." I was living for it. I really was. I was living for it because I honestly felt like it was well deserved after the way that Erika treated her last season. Anyway, Kyle wants to reflect back on everything that has gone down with the group and Erika, and Sutton is like, no, I don't want to hear it. Kyle says, well, I know that, that night that she went, I feel so bad that I didn't stick up for you that night, that she really came after you at Kathy's house, but I know she went home and just cried her eyes out. And Sutton is like, you expect me to feel sorry for this girl right here? You expect me to feel sorry for her? How about we feel sorry for the victims of the Lion Air victims who have lost their families? That's the people that we should be feeling sorry for and crying for, not Miss Erika Jane. And I was like, oh, Sutton, you are on it today. Okay. I'm gonna tell you the truth. If this is the Sutton we getting all season, bring it on, baby. Bring it all the way on. Okay. She is not here for Erika this season. And then she basically tells Kyle, listen, I don't understand. It was like such a double standard. The men, she was cool with them joking about her, laughing at her expense. But for me, it was like I was public enemy number one. And Kyle still feels like Erika's upset with her because of that. But we about to see how that's gonna work out, because Kyle is having the girls over. Erika arrives first. Maurizio walks in, and she basically tells Maurizio, hey, listen, you hurt my feelings, And Maurizio apologizes, he hugs her. She says, oh, it's okay, and it's all good, okay? So then Lisa Rinna arrives, Dorit arrives, and she tells them the tale of how everything went down. And then the dogs start barking, and it just kind of sends Dorit into this spiral, because she's still dealing with the after effects of how this whole situation has happened, because it's literally the next day. So ultimately, the person that the dogs were barking at was just Garcelle arriving. So Garcelle arrives, they all kind of sit around and commiserate. And, PK arrives in from London. He says that the paparazzi were all at the airport. And when you see the two of them reunited for the first time, we're seeing that on camera. And he just breaks down and cries. And honestly, I lost it myself, because I was just like, I can only imagine the fear that he felt for his wife, and then to finally be able to get to her. And ultimately, we see them trying to leave, and he's left his phone in the house. And she's just kind of in a panic as she's sitting outside, spiraling, because, it's all just getting to her, and she doesn't want to be left alone. And it was such it was a heart-wrenching episode to watch. I want to know what you guys think about the episode. Were you satisfied with it? Did it give you everything that it needed to give? I honestly feel like it was probably one of the most powerful episodes, not because of not because it happened to her, but because we were able to see her walk through it, you know? So my heart definitely goes out to her. And they did recommend that she seek some therapy. She admitted that she was already seeing a therapist, but now it's definitely going to have to be an ongoing thing. And she even talked about how on Watch What Happens Live that, she was still dealing with it was kind of triggering for her to watch it all happen again. So that's my review of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 12, episode 1. Let me know what you guys think. Should we continue to recap these episodes? Let me know in the chatterization down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.